Anyone who knows me personally or follows Another Voice with Eric and Friends, and has done for a while, knows that I am an independent and that I do not care for party, Republican or Democrat. That I feel, as an election worker for many, many years, that parties tend to be a crutch for voters who won't look at the actual candidate, but as long as there's an R or a D after the name, they got to be the right choice. My voting record, if you were to look at it, would show candidates from both parties and some that weren't in any party over my voting history. So I'm not a fan of parties, which gets me in trouble with a lot of my friends who are party members or supporters of parties. And we argue back and forth about that. Well, there's an issue the city of Greenville is considering that this brings this to a head. The city of Greenville is looking to do non-partisan elections for city offices, mayor, city council, so forth. And what that means is there would be no primary for Republican, Democrat, for mayor, council member, whatever. There would just be an election. And people could choose to run as a Republican or as a Democrat or as neither. You wouldn't be required. In other words, there wouldn't be on the ballot Eric Wood R or Eric Wood D. It would be Eric Wood. Now, in my campaign, if I chose to emphasize the party that I was a part of, I could do so. But I wouldn't have to. Now, the city looks at a couple of reasons why they say they're doing it. They say that there's been a decline in voter participation and in good quality candidates running. And if you look at the back at the last couple of elections for city council and mayor and so forth, you'll see that there's not been very much challenge to those who are incumbents. They also say there's a growing moderate and independent voting base in Greenville who don't care about party or are, and this is important, are disgusted with the parties because they feel on a national level and sometimes on a state level that actions of elected officials who we elected to do things that we think they should do have acted instead upon what the party philosophy is. Now, my partisan friends would disagree with that, or they would say that that's what they're supposed to, that we elected them to be the representative for this party or that party. And the city also says that that we are an anomaly. In our own state, we're an anomaly. We're only one of 7 or 8 cities that do not have non-partisan elections. And finally, that city services are not partisan. Police department, fire department, roads, zoning, banning distracted driving. These things are not partisan. You don't have to have a Republican or Democrat party line in order to do these things. We don't need that. So that's what the city is saying. And this is coming. They're going to have an open workshop. They're going to be talking about things. And as I get information, I will put that on our website, canIGetAWordIn.com, and also at Facebook at Another Voice with Eric and Friends. But as you would assume, there is opposition from party people on this issue. I just watched a video from Krista Bannister, who is the wife of State Representative Bruce Bannister. In her opposition, she was speaking to a group of Republicans and explaining her opposition to nonpartisan elections. And I wanted us to look at some of her oppositions because I think they should be reasons why we should. Her main theme that I kept hearing throughout the speech was that nonpartisan elections will not be good for the Republican Party. Let me say that again. Mrs. Bannister's main point is that nonpartisan elections will not be good for the Republican Party. Now, let me hasten to say she also mentioned that she's getting the same thought from Democratic leaders. There are some Democratic leaders who are opposed to nonpartisan elections for the same reason, that they will not be good for the Democratic Party. Now, this may come as a shock to my partisan friends, but the city council and the mayor's office is not actually supposed to be doing what's best for a particular party, but for the city of Greenville. She talked about, in all the studies that she had done, that you could have groups that would pop up where people would have little knowledge of who they were, they had very little track record, and they could be influencing elections. And as she's saying that, I'm scratching my head thinking, we already have, especially on the local level, candidates who nobody knows and they don't have a track record. Now, obviously, if we're talking about incumbents, when Mayor White is up for election again, we're going to know he's going to have a track record. In addition to being a Republican, we're actually going to have an actual track record of what the mayor did during his time in office. But this idea that groups can pop up in nonpartisan elections and you can have people who are unknown, well, that's what happens in partisan elections as well. Look, some of my Republican friends are very upset in some areas where they elected someone that they thought was a conservative and found out that they're not. So, I'm sorry, Mrs. Bannister, that doesn't fly. She also talked about when the city says that city services are not partisan and that we don't need partisan labels, she mentioned, well, you know what? Taxes. Now, she talked about taxes in a number of different ways. That is a party issue. No, ma'am, it's not. It is a philosophical issue. And yes, Democrats tend to have a different view of taxes than Republicans do, but there's a whole stretch of opinions within those parties and in the middle. Taxes are a human issue. We have to pay them. And you know what? In a nonpartisan election, if you oppose taxes, if you don't think, for example, there should be a 1-cent sales tax increase to cover roads in Greenville County, then you say that to the people you want to elect you. She said something that she used this expression as a negative. She said, and out of a report that I think, I'm not sure if it came from Mayor Bloomberg's studies to try to get nonpartisan in New York City or from another study, but she said, what in a nonpartisan election, what is sought, the kind of people that are sought are business leaders, managers, professionals. And she said that like it was a bad thing. In the running of a city, having professionals, business leaders, and managers is a good thing. Because what the city council and the mayor do is run, in essence, a business. Having ideologues, having people who like, I support a woman's right to choose, or I support pro-life, or whatever, I may have opinions. I have opinions on those things. But I want to know, what are you going to do about traffic? What are you going to do about distracted driving? Or maybe you shouldn't do anything about distracted driving. We want professionals, managers, business leaders to run. So that's a good thing. The other thing she pointed out, she said that in nonpartisan elections, incumbency is the number one benefit for someone running in a nonpartisan election. Well, I've got two things to say with that. How is that different than in a partisan election? If you look at the records of partisan elections on any level of government, the incumbent is the one who stays in office. And often, number 2 point is usually in a nonpartisan election, the incumbent stays in office because of his track record of actions and not because he happens to be of the party you like, as in a partisan election. Now, I support a nonpartisan election on the city level. I believe that city services are not partisan. But I also believe, as a man who's worked in the elections and polling places for over a decade, that it is vital that we know who we're voting for. Not what party they hang their hat on, but who we're voting for. And I'll go a step further. If you believe that the Republican point of view or the Democrat point of view is the right one, say it. Not this is the Republican point of view, but this is the right way. And if your values, if your ideas resonate with the community, it won't make a difference if there's an R or a D, an elephant or a donkey anywhere on the ballot. Your ideas, and then more importantly, your actual actions, what you actually do when you're in office, will matter the most. But I want to end with something that Mrs. Bannister mentioned, that she was, I'm sorry to say, absolutely dead wrong about. She was concluding her remarks, and she said that our country, our government was founded on the two-party system. Absolutely 100% wrong. Let me read you John Adams. There is nothing which I dread so much as a division of the Republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This, in my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution. George Washington said the alternative domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetrated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. Our country, our government was not founded on the two-party system. Oh, it quickly emerged, but it wasn't founded on the two-party system. Especially at the local level, the measure of whether or not you should be elected for office should be on what you have done, what you will do, and yes, your fundamental philosophy. But that doesn't have to be tied to a person, to a party. Now, we are going to be giving you information as soon as we get it on when the open workshops will be, and so you can give your voice. And I'd like to hear from you. Put some comments down here in the comments section about whether you think I'm right or wrong. You're partisan folks. You think as a Democrat or Republican that this is a bad idea. Or if you agree with it, I'd love to hear that. So you can put them here on our YouTube channel at Be Another Voice. Or you could go to canigetawordin.com and put your comments there. Go to Facebook at Another Voice with Eric and Friends. Or you can tweet us at Twitter at Be Another Voice. All these ways to get in touch with us. So we want you to consider this. I want you to think about this, and it's you have a voice in this. There may not be a public vote on this, but you have a voice to talk to the city council members, to talk to the mayor, and say, I like this idea. I don't like this idea. But more than that, here's why I think we should or shouldn't do this. Take the time. Make a difference by giving your voice. All right, until we meet again, get out in your community and make a difference.